Captain's Log, Episode 38. This week's episode of the Beer Vengers podcast is sponsored by Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens. Now open 7 days a week with outdoor and indoor dining. Tickets now available for their epic 7-year anniversary party on June 27th. Limited reserved seating available at 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. Get your tickets while you can. Enjoy the eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, home bar to yours truly, Captain Porter Brown Stout. In this installment, Captain Huck and Beer Wonder welcome podcaster, Uber home brewer, and beer venger-to-be, Chris Scully, a.k.a. Moondog, a.k.a. You'll have to listen to the end to find out the other a.k.a. Remember to like, star, and subscribe us whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you'd just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 38, Left Side of the Moondog.
Well, we're the beer vengers, beer vengers, beer vengers. We're the beer vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brown Stout.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location on the west side of Manhattan town, this is the Pale Male, Hophead Huck.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder!
And we are the Beer Vengers.
That truly was the best one yet.
Yeah, we don't even need to do it again. I'll just cut that one out and make a button for that one every week. Yeah, that's right. We are the Beer Vengers. This is the Beercast, heard by people in I think at least 14 states, 3 countries, and various parts unknown. So if we didn't mention you and you're in one of those parts unknown, let us know because we'd like to know. That'll be very exciting. We got a great show coming up. We have lots of great pours. But before we get to any of it, I would like to introduce our special guest today. He is a podcaster in his own right of the podcast Ironweeds. He's a home brewer, much more committed than any home brewer I've ever run crossed paths with ever. And he's a member. Actually, I should have found out what you do in your band. What do you do?
I play bass. He's
the bass player for the band Zombie Giuliani. Please welcome Chris Scully.
Yeah.
Welcome, Chris.
Wow,
Welcome,
I feel
Chris.
so welcome. Thank you so much
Good.
for having me on. This is an awesome podcast.
Oh, thanks. And it's even
kind
more
of you to
awesome with having you as our guest. We got a great show coming up. You're going to learn a little bit more about Chris later. We're going to talk about our week in beer. I know there's going to be a few hookups from last week. But before we do any of this, gentlemen, I think it's time we get to the pours, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
And
so.
I am.
And honestly, I'll be honest, I feel like order is restored around here. Having a guest just makes me feel so
I'm very
much
calm.
better.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel better since you feel better. It's very
Thank you.
contagious that way.
Yes, I know.
Well,
Is contagious a word we should use in a positive way? Are we healing? We can actually say contagious and good things?
I believe Gotham is at 70% first vaccinations.
That's
so
right. That's right.
There you go.
Time to take it back.
I'll go first then.
Oh,
No!
man.
Huck! Oh,
Have you learned nothing, man?
It went well last week when I did.
I am aware it went well. I know I had my moment in the spotlight. It was great, but we have a guest.
We have a guest.
That's fair.
In fact, I think even he's related to you, isn't he?
That's right.
Yes.
We
Yes,
are
we're
blood
cousins.
relations.
So don't take advantage of that
Part of our
by jumping the
series
line there.
here on the Beer Vengers. This will be the third family member. We should make it a regular series though, because we have a lot of Beer Vengers to be in my family. So welcome to it, Chris.
Well,
Chris,
welcome. Yes.
if you hadn't already guessed, around here we think it's polite if the guest does the first pour.
I mean, if
All
you
right.
only be
Sounds
polite that
good.
way, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you have for us, Chris? What you starting out with?
So, I'm going to start with the brewery that is closest to me and closest to my heart. The Troy Division is the name of the beer from there, but this is from Rare Form, and it's
Rare
an India
Form.
Pale Ale. And Rare Form in Troy, New York. And they're super great. I've been like doing barter with them over the years. Like when they first were opening their doors, before they opened their doors, I like rapped on the window and was like, "Hey, do you have like an engineer on staff, like somebody to help you with technical challenges?" And the owner was like, "No," and I was like, "All right, I'll do it for beer." So I gave him my number, and like as soon as he had some technical issues, I helped him automate some temperature control loops and that kind of thing. And I've just been drinking Rare Form as much as I can over the last several years.
Very
So,
cool.
do I go ahead and crack it and
Oh, yes,
pour it now?
please do.
Yeah,
Let's take
we
a-
definitely
and,
Very nice
want to get a pour
crack.
pick or two.
All right.
Now, what genre is this one?
This is an IPA. And this is it's
we'll hold it up a little bit.
Can you
more.
hold up
Yeah,
just a
it's
little higher so we can see it? No,
Oh,
just a
yeah.
little
There
higher.
we go.
There
Oh,
you
that's
go.
great.
There
See,
we go.
want, that's
All right,
that
cool.
golden color with beautiful head production on that. It's a
Excellent.
little hazy too.
Yeah, a little hazy. So they typically don't do like a plate filter on their most of their beers, but they cold crash them. They got bright tanks and stuff. So they,
Hold the can up next to the glass so we can see the
and
two
then-
together.
Yeah, so I'll get you a photo.
Oh, that's great.
I love
Nice.
the name Troy Division.
Very nice.
It's great.
Troy Division.
Yeah, and so the art on the can is based on some art from a Joy Division album, and this shirt is also based on that art.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
It's got a bunch of cats.
It's got cats.
beautiful.
But
With
yeah,
a full theme going there.
yeah. Also got the Joy
You're
Division poster in the back.
Wow.
Dressing to match your beer, Chris. This is next level. Okay, this is
It is next level.
A
Speaking
plus
of
one.
next level, who's
Thank
going to go to the next level with their beer?
Well,
here?
Huck, you were so excited, and I really just crushed all your dreams, which is why they keep me around. So, would you like to go next?
Well, this past weekend, the weekend before, I went to the birthplace of Chris and myself, Worcester, Mass. But this week, I went to Cape Cod, and for the opening of Treehouse Brewing has opened their Cape Cod tap house, and you can buy cans there now. And so we did get a few cans. Ooh, this is dripping. Some condensation. This is called Hello Cape Cod.
Hello.
And this is indeed an IPA as well, a New England style American IPA, 6.7%. So let's take a look.
Wow. Also, beautiful can art. Is that meant to be a sunset or a sunrise?
Yeah, I believe so. There we go.
Oh, that's the kind of crap we
Okay.
look for.
It's weird because, where's the front of the can? It's it does look nice, doesn't it?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
pretty-
See, there's a person
that's
looking
pretty
off
good.
into the
Hello,
distance.
Cape Cod. We can talk more about that, but I also have the proper glassware.
Oh,
there we go.
hey,
Yeah.
Treehouse.
Okay, let's take a look
On
at
brand
this beauty.
again.
Oh, wow. Oh, definitely. That's what
Oh.
I'd expect from Treehouse, right? Something
That's
nice and
looking
hazy
pretty
like
good
that.
there.
It's beautiful. Almost like a
Oh.
grapefruity color.
Yeah.
I love
Very
that.
good.
Oh, yeah. I can really get that. I'm getting that tropical notes right off the can there too.
There's a sense that I'd like to walk into.
This is our first treehouse of the show as well.
It
I
is.
believe.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's
Well, they're hard to
exciting.
get to.
There'll be
so I
more to
appreciate you
come because
making
I did
the
get a
extra
few.
effort. Oh, perfect. All right. Well, I want to see what Beer Wonder has.
All right. Well, today, continuing a trend, I do have a
Sponsored pour.
That's
That's
right.
right. A sponsored pour from Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard. What do you
Now,
have, Beer Wonder?
This one feels overly appropriate to our podcast, and I'm very excited. I'm continuing our IPA trend this evening.
Wow.
But I have got the Half Acre Brewing Company out of Chicago's Beer Hates Astronauts 2021. So this is a regular series. We'll talk about that later. But the reason it's so appropriate is if you take a look at the can art, it is a comic strip.
That is
Mhm.
really cool.
And it is a custom one that is just for this particular brewing of the beer. So I'll get into more of that, but I want to taste it. So I'm going to crack
Wow.
this bad boy open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get into that a little bit too, because I hear the whole world is of can art is like very
that's
tightly
nice.
controlled.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
for
we
sure.
could talk about that.
Another
Wow.
hazy boy there, it looks like.
Yeah, we got
pretty hazy, beautiful, creamy head. I'm
Yeah,
excited
that looks
about
really
this.
delicious.
Yeah.
This is not normal for us to have so many IPAs off the
No.
bat. So
Is that also a pie glass?
It is. It is a glass with
very good.
with pie on one side and the numbers on the
nice.
other. Just trying to keep the nerd cred going, especially for this week's
It is
episode.
Beer Wonder's favorite glass, I think.
It is. Yes.
Captain, you going to break the streak
All right,
here?
yeah, I am going to break the cycle. I mean, I know I had my first IPA ever on the show last week. Well, not my first one, but the first show one.
It was thrilling. I had feelings about it.
But another thing you're going to hear about a little bit later is that the three of us met together at the new Evil Twin in Dumbo last night.
Oh, so good.
Beautiful.
And I brought home with me some nice cans, including this 2021 Brewers Without Borders.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
collaboration between Evil Twin and American Solera. I believe it is.
Yeah.
Let's make sure I have it right there. Yeah, American Solera out of Oklahoma. It is a 13%er, brewed with cinnamon, hazelnut, coffee, and marshmallow. So let's see what this is.
Wow. All right.
Whoa.
This is a Captain Beer right here.
Adjunct City.
There it is.
Very fresh. I mean, this just came out a couple weeks ago, too. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is going to make that
that's
Astoria
dark.
Beer and Cheese thing glow, right? Look at that.
Wow.
Does, yeah.
There's a lot of
Mhm.
carafa in there.
Mhm.
And a nice head, if subtle.
Oh, yeah, that is
Just very gentle head
royal
for
dark.
Yeah, it's there.
Oh, I bet that's.
So you said this was 13.5%?
13% even.
Wow.
Don't oversell it, Chris.
Drink
That
it.
half
Yeah,
percent
sorry.
really is going to push it.
Yeah,
over.
God.
The next one will be stronger.
Didn't mean to
All
half
right.
up it.
Gentlemen, cheers. Sláinte.
Cheers.
Kampai.
Cheers.
Etc.
Chin chin.
Nostrovia.
Let's go. Well, I
That's
got to
very
say,
good.
when I don't have, I don't normally have these New England IPAs anymore. They don't really cut it for me as much these days. But this is good.
Yeah.
Not too sweet. Like sometimes I feel like they're overcloyingly sweet, but this has just got nice tropical aroma, and I'm going to need more time. I'm going to need more time with it.
All right. Very
To
good.
really come up with what I'm drinking here. It's fantastic. I got some chill haze on the glass there. And you know what I did? I took it out of the fridge early. This is something we're trying to do as Americans. We like our beer super cold, but a lot of the recommendations on these and stouts too is that you want it to be at a little bit of a higher temperature when you drink it. So I'm trying to embrace that idea. And
Is
I
that
think it's working? Because I'm picking up a lot more flavors.
Yeah, is that mostly for aroma or is that like a mouthfeel carbonation thing?
It's for all of it. It's your mouthfeel and the flavor. Like you're supposed to be able to get more flavor as the beer warms, and that happens with stouts a lot. When you, especially a big one like the Captain's drinking, when you get to the bottom of the glass, you're going to continue to pick up different flavors as it warms.
But of course, with a nice, with like a 16-ounce can of a nice sippable beer like this, you're going to get there. So that's part of the journey for me.
Well,
Nice.
Stouts
Yeah, you
are
gotta be
a
careful.
highway.
Yeah, this is. I was a little hesitant for a moment when I saw that they pointed out that it is sweet, but the sweetness it's very subtle. The marshmallow is there, but the chocolate and coffee are there more. So it's like and with I definitely taste the hazelnut as well. But this is it's a really nice, robust sipping imperial stout.
Excellent.
Nice.
Not too sweet, you said.
Not too sweet. I mean, the sweetness is there. Don't mistake me, but it's not overly so. And I've had a lot of ones recently that do seem to be leaning into that a little too hard. So this is nice. It's just enough. I feel like the chocolate, but like a rich, not sweetest chocolate. It's almost like a bittersweet chocolate is there a little stronger there. So it's good. Good one.
Nice.
I don't really know much about American Solera. I know that they are an Oklahoma brewery, which makes that the second Oklahoma brewery we've ever featured on the show. The other one being Prairie, because we don't get much of their stuff up here. In fact, the only reason this is here is because it's a collaboration with Evil Twin. I don't know if they've ever distributed to the New York area, but if anyone out there,
They're definitely a cool kids brewery. Like I've heard of them.
oh, you have, okay,
Yeah.
Well, if if we have any listeners in Oklahoma who wants to educate me more, please feel free. You know how to reach us.
Education.
that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I need to know about this Troy brewery that you're drinking from, because I have visited Troy a few times and was not the beer nerd that I am today. So I want to hear the full story.
So yeah, the owner's Kevin Mullen, and it is a sweet brewery. I've been, like drinking there since it opened. I think they just went through their 5th year anniversary or 8. I forget. Time is a flat circle.
It seems like 7 is the norm these days. Every brewery's having their 7th anniversary.
But yeah, they're really great, and yeah, they've been producing beer in downtown Troy.
Established in 2014, so there you go.
Nice. So what is that? 8?
7.
21, 7, 14. Okay, yeah,
it's
there
like
you
every
go.
brewery was born in 2014.
Yeah, that's
very strange.
So weird. But yeah, super great. Brews really consistent. They have during COVID, like they closed their tap room, because everything basically was closing for at least a period where we were living. And they did a can service. So I was mostly drinking this beer, Troy Division, and their Mexican style lager Confetti, pretty much the entirety of like COVID, because I was just getting by the case, and like they're really good. It's what I had at my wedding, which I also did during COVID. And yeah, like I, was talking to Kevin, wanted to know what, like it took to brew, and whether or not I could like get involved with sort of the bulk pricing for grains when I started to brew. And he was like, yeah, like I'll be able to let a couple bags slide off the back of a truck, that kind of thing. And so I get a lot of my grain through him, which helps, my end goal, which is to reduce the cost of my drinking habit while maintaining and hopefully upping the quality of it for the rest of my life. So I'm a mechanical electrical engineer by trade, and I was fixing this house that I got with my wife. We had to, fix the really dank basement. So we had like high radon, and it was a dirt floor with brick and then like rotting hardwood on top of it. And they used to bake bread down there. It's like this gigantic brick oven that used to be able to, cook a whole town's bread.
Wow.
It's like 12 feet wide, like 15 feet deep.
Yeah.
Big old long peel kind of operation. But hasn't been used for, at least probably like 60 years. Basically needed to redo the basement. So the light at the end of the tunnel was, I was like, I'm going to build myself a brewery just for personal consumption, me and the homies, And so I went ahead and just got really nice stuff. So I went to Spike Brewing, which made my fermenter, and which is a unitank, and my 3 vessel Herm system, and basically just built sort of their version of their turnkey system, but a la carte. And I built my own table with my wife. We taught each other or ourselves how to do stainless steel welding and weld it up.
Like you do.
Like you do. And just got that whole thing going only about, let's see, like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And I've now brewed on it 6 batches, the last 2 of which were double batch days. So I brew 30 gallons of what'll end up getting kegged in one day. So in 2 batches. And the last one I did was a Doppelbock and a Pilsner, which were, a Doppelbock and a Session Ale. And that was a lot of fun. And I also did my first like Erlenmeyer flask with a stir kind of thing.
Now, a lot of breweries don't make or don't have the capacity to make a Doppelbock. So you had to lager that for a while?
Yeah, I lagered it. But I probably not for as long as it would want to be, but I got pretty close to the final gravity that I was looking for. So I figured it was, good. And I wanted to get the fermenter clean. So I went ahead and kegged it. Now it's just, keg aging in the basement at like 65 degrees Fahrenheit. But yeah, like lagering, you guys probably know more about beer and maybe even brewing than I do. I
kind of doubt that, but
yeah, I've just been like dipping my toes into it. And
Beer Wonder has brewed.
He has brewed, but not on your scale.
I have brewed, but I live in an apartment in New York City, so
it must be tough to brew in an apartment.
Beautiful apartment though. We visited yesterday, and now we know what
But
that background is all about.
But yeah, it is a much smaller. It's a much smaller setup than I'm sure you have.
And I will
And
also
so-
go ahead.
No. Oh, I was just asking, like, what's the scale? Like, do you do like a 5-gallon carboy or something, or
Yes,
what's?
I mean,
awesome.
well, yes, it's it's a tiny little thing, and it's
Cool.
they're all one-off situations. So because
Nice.
there's nowhere else to store anything. But I knowing this brewery is so cool, and it sort of inspired that journey. How is the beer you're drinking today?
Yeah,
It's so delicious. You guys have a really great vocabulary that I'm picking up listening to your podcast.
we're working on it.
Yeah, I'm not particularly like sophisticated in my my like way of describing stuff. So I'll read from the side of the can, which I think is pretty accurate. And it says, it says, "Node to our city and to one of our favorite bands. We brewed this immensely satisfying New England IPA with a medley of American hops, along with a dose of wheat and oats. This unknown pleasure is sure to become a familiar favorite." And
It's
so
a much better name for a beer than, say, "Beer Will Tear Us Apart."
That's probably a little too close to true in some relationships.
True.
Unknown Pleasures is the name of the album, by the way.
You did mention something
exactly.
that there is something I don't want to yada past. You said you had a COVID wedding. What did a COVID wedding look like for you?
Well, one thing it didn't have was me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I had.
We've been waiting for these kids to get married for 20 years or something. Then COVID comes.
Yeah, I had a original guest list that included Michael and Bricken, or should I say Huck?
Huck and Cider Girl, yeah.
Huck and Cider Girl, yes.
Too late
Okay.
now.
Yeah, Huck and Cider Girl. My bad.
Don't worry, we'll edit that out.
Bruck.
We won't.
Bruck, yeah. So Bruck was going to come to my original guest list, but I had to pare it down when everyone was dying really fast. And so, we ended up
Don't put a damper on the festivities.
Yeah, it will. And so, we got married in October, which for everybody involved in the wedding was like the first time we had like seen family since this all probably Christmas. Probably it was like the last time I really like traveled to Worcester and like hung out and seen my mom and stuff. And we all tested beforehand, and it was only a 18-person wedding, including like the everybody, the person officiating it, like all the guests, all the family, 18 people, and we all tested in, made sure we were all healthy and stuff, and then just didn't wear masks and had like a sort of a retreat tiny wedding. And I gotta say, it's pretty sweet way to do it. Like, the downside obviously is I can't party with the extensive awesomeness that is my family as well as my wife's, and now my family, because now we're family. But it really, the intimacy of having an 18-person wedding, having been to a bunch of really big weddings, is just totally different. Like I actually spent a lot of time talking with every single person there. It was great.
Well, then you need some kind of a do-over. You don't have to get married again. You don't have to put anyone. No one has to sit through a ceremony again. You just need. I mean, because I have
I want to do a
rager party.
I've had some family that has done that before. Like they wound up doing a destination thing off on some island somewhere, but then when they came back, they had a wedding party closer to home. And so since we're coming out of this, that's what you need to do.
Maybe I'll just do a celebration, like a big rager. And we won't, because the dress and the clothes and the weddings are big things. But throwing a kegger of some homebrew, hey, that's a cheap party.
Well, as they taught me in my pre-Cana class, it's not about the wedding day; it's about the marriage.
Yeah,
in your pre what?
Pre-Cana.
What's that? Is that like a Catholic thing?
It is a Catholic thing.
Yeah. Okay. See, you're confirmed. I'm the only person in like our biological lineage, as far back as record keeping goes, that didn't actually confirm. I tried to on behalf of my mom because she wanted to have me confirm.
Sure.
And I went to like 1 year of like Catholic high school, but I really hated it.
Did you go to St. John's?
I ended up like. Yeah, I went to 1 year at St. John's, and then I like tested into this like math and science program that was like 2 years high school combined into 1 year, and then your senior year of high school was a freshman year at WPI. And so I got into that program, and I skipped sophomore year and just like did my high school in 2 years, and then went to WPI. And as such, I didn't do my catechism. Yeah, thank you. And
Somehow,
so I was
Yeah,
having,
that's
you go to
nice
religion
dodge.
class.
yeah, but I tried to do it. My the nun was like, "You're not slipping through the cracks," and she was going to make me go to Sunday school.
I'm avoiding
for
the
like,
cracks
like
altogether.
in college.
Wow.
And we were like, "Yeah, no, we're
Yeah. I've already decided
Not
I'm not
gonna bother.
buying in, so see ya.
yeah."
Well, before we get onto more of, and we're already getting a lot of previews of your origin story, but I do want to hear more about Beer Wonders beer and the whole origin story of that beer, because that's a really fun thing.
Talk about that can art
yes,
too.
it is a sponsored pour, so I do want to rep for them. So it's Half Acre Brewing out of Chicago, Illinois. This one is an IPA. It is a Citra hopped India Pale Ale from the near future.
Whoa, what does that mean?
We'll all find out together, I think. And it's 7.8%. So hello. And it's part of a series that they have at the brewery called Beer Hates Astronauts. And this is a series that is based off of the work of an artist, a local
It's an
artist.
underground comic, isn't it?
Yes, his name is Ryan Brown. And he's got a whole series of comics that are going, but one of them is called God Hates Astronauts, and this is meant to be an homage to that. And so for a number of years they've produced a very similar beer. They've adjusted elements of it. They changed the yeast a couple of years ago, but this is this year's offering, and he always does the can art for it. So this year he has done one of 4 different cans, each of which is a different comic strip that you can read. So this is a weird, like, they call it "And Now," a romantic comedy that you will certainly enjoy. And it's like a fight between 2 different monsters, and they get stuck to each other, and then they go on a lifelong journey together where one of them can't get themselves unstuck, and then one of them dies, and the last panel is the guy's just kind of hanging out bored with his arms sticking out of the RIP there. It's pretty spectacular. So this is only one of 4, so I'm excited about that. And I do love the little note at the bottom, which is, hey, wasn't that an extremely funny tale from the God Hates Astronauts universe by Ryan Brown? No? Fine. I just want you to be happy.
And so how's the beer?
I mean, the beer's actually pretty good. Very light, very pillowy. They describe it as being strawberries and cream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting the most strawberries, but I definitely understand how it could go in that direction. It definitely does have that like fruity IPA thing. It's got a little bit of bitterness. They do mention that this is meant to be a fight against that like intensely bitter hop feel that often comes from IPAs. But for a 7.8% beer, this is going down. It's very drinkable. It's quaffable.
Yeah,
it's just,
that's the way I'm feeling about this.
It's approachable.
It would like to be my best friend. It has already bought me a drink first, and we're continuing on this journey together. Plus, it gave me good reading material.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole package.
I know, it's exactly what you want. It's what you want in a beer. So I'm quite pleased, and also I'll probably hang on to this can because it's just absolutely adorable.
It's really.
I think I know what I want to say about this beer now. You know that feeling, and Chris, you can relate to this. You know that feeling you get when you're on the Cape and the trees begin to get shorter and the sky begins to open up, revealing the majesty of the bay and Sandwich, or the ocean along the national seashore.
Oh, of course. I never forget those feelings. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Do you smell
from their website?
I was just reading out the can. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
warned us 2 weeks ago he was going to do this.
I was going to do this. But actually, to say something about this beer, which is because they have been having a trouble with the Cape, because if you do anything on the Cape and you're going to build something, and especially something as popular as Treehouse, there's going to be a lot of pushback. And so there has been. And so what they made this Hello Cape Cod is a single IPA brewed with Strata and Citra. It's an homage to the Cape, but we have made 100% of the revenue be donated to the Sandwich Food Pantry, Animal Rescue League, Woodwell Climate Research Center, Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, Cape Kid Meals Capabilities, which my sister works at,
nice,
Cape Cod Military Support Foundation, and a hyper local oyster cultivation fund.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of.
They should brew more because they currently don't have it on sale now. Any of the places, I don't know why.
Drink it. It sounds like.
But yeah, no, it's a really nice beer, and they should bring that back, especially if they're doing 100% of the proceeds. So that's a good faith welcome to the Cape, and they've already opened for can sales, and I guess you have to pre-order. And for the tap room, there's a 2-drink limit. You get 2 beers,
2-drink limit,
and then you got to go.
And not minimum,
right?
Do they
can only
make you
have 2,
drink precisely 2 beers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have two
Precisely
beers,
two
and then you
beers.
have to leave. It's just they're too popular. And the Cape is just so short of space in general. And so these parking areas, this place is right on the shore, kind of where the canal meets the Cape Cod Bay, is where the brewery is. And I think they are going to be brewing there, but mainly they're brewing in Charlton, bringing the cans and kegs to Sandwich. And they also opened a place in Deerfield recently, and they're also making spirits as well. So they did everything during 2020, I should say. They've expanded their whole operation. They were waiting
Good for them.
moment. Yeah, that's a real Massachusetts institution.
Hell yeah.
And tasty. They're credited with making in most circles, they're credited with that first real hazy IPA. There's Hetty Topper is credited with making the first New England IPA, but they've really been credited with that first making of the one that looks like a juice bomb in the glass. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. There you go. All right, I'm done. Captain, any notes from our?
I don't think anything additional. This remains a very good beer. Let me just.
Tasting for science. I like it.
I guess there is something to the whole notion that the flavors do become richer the closer to room temperature it gets. But I would rather have the variant of the experience than start there, because no matter how often we're told that this beer should be drink closer to room temperature, almost every time I start there, every time I go to a bar with give it a nice cask ale, I drink it. It's like, I can taste that this is good. But I really wish it were cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't help
and
myself.
a little more carbonated.
Yes, true.
That's the other thing. When a beer loses its carbonation too quickly.
I guess I feel a little I'm so into imperial stouts that often the carbonation is so subtle, I don't think about it as much.
It doesn't matter as much on a big stout like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got to say, we're doing great for time. Just wanted to put that in at this point.
We always are, but that must mean that it is time.
Well, Chris, this is your first time here, but since this is a sort of a comic book themed, going along with what we do and with Beer Wenger's beer, there's a way. You're becoming a Beer Venger tonight, and no one truly can be a Beer Venger without us knowing how they became a Beer Venger so far. So that means it is time now for your origin story.
Oh, okay.
That's right. It's time to find out how you became the beer drinker that you are today. And here's a little bit of a spoiler: your origin story. It's still happening right now. This is the last chapter of your origin story being on the show.
Big moment.
I used to do that origin story bit live, but we don't do that.
Yeah, no. We had to take that away from him because
you should have seen the way he worked himself up to get all that reverb in there. He did that.
The rest of the episode.
There's no effects on that at all. That just got that out from him doing it. But yeah, I'm sure you're thinking about all the different things you think are important. But the way we often like to start this is, do you remember the first time you became your first experiences in any way, positive, negative, in between? Where you first encountered beer and realized it was a thing?
Oh yeah. So my dad was a big beer drinker. I mean, nothing like crazy, but he had a couple a night, and his big thing for a period growing up was Red Dog. I don't know if you guys remember Red Dog.
I think I had it in a crossword puzzle recently, and I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah. So yeah, Red
Dog. It was made by Miller,
wasn't
it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. It was like this.
That one, yes.
Yeah. It was like branded like a red-faced bulldog.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was probably the first beer that I remember tasting, and I remember just being like, "Well,"
yeah,
because as a kid, like even seltzer was like so disgusting. Now that like I have a kegerator, one of the best things about having a kegerator is that I have seltzer on tap, like unlimited supply.
Yeah,
and it's the greatest drink like outside of beer that I have regularly. But I hated seltzer back then. I hated beer back then, and I just remember being like, I guess beer's not for me until I was like, late teens, like early 20s, and then I started. So drinking,
like right around the time you became legal.
Yeah, right around. I was pretty straight-laced kid. I was a big nerd growing up, and didn't do any like drinking or smoking or anything until basically college. And a little bit of drinking in the very beginning of college, but like I wanted to make it a thing that I associated with food more than I associated with like partying and like, you know, putting on like armor for social awkwardness. And so I got my dad to like buy me like a couple cases of High Life, like when I was going for my, I think it was like my sophomore year, and I was just like, you know, I skipped a bunch of high school. Like I'm still really young, like as a sophomore in college. Like I think I was like 19, and I was like, could you just buy me some beer and I'll just keep it in my fridge and like have one a night or something? And he was like, I'm not gonna regret this, am I? And then he went ahead and got them for me.
So this is High Life, and what year is this?
This let's see. So I graduated 2008, so like 2006 probably.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was probably 2006, 2005 was like when I, you know, started drinking like every day.
So this is like right
like
just
nearly
before
every day, like
the craft beer stuff started really happening in any serious way.
Yeah, I wasn't a big craft beer head. In fact,
well, it didn't. That's what I'm saying. It's like back then, it was all Miller, Coors, or Bud, or something made by one of those three people.
Yeah, there was a couple imports that I had tasted in college that I got really into. Like there was a Doppelbock from Spaten called Optimator, which is like my first like fancy beer. That was like the first beer I was like, oh wow, that's different. That has a lot of flavor and sort of makes me feel like warm after I drink it. Like because it was like 7.5%. And I just remember being like, this is a different experience to beer than I typically have had. And then the other beer like quality experience was when my brothers, both of them actually, one and then the other, Joe and then Pat, got jobs at the Armsby Abbey, which is a brew, not a brew pub. They're just a tap room, but like also restaurant and really fancy,
a little nicer.
Yeah. And it was like, you know, like a lot of, you know, polished and stained wood interiors and like, you know, like dark
Beautiful
shades
place.
and like, you know, like mood lighting. And I would go there, my brother would be like, you drink shit beer, drink this, and he'd put something in front of me, and it was always like a rotating thing. That was like back then, what was the big ones that I had? I'm trying to remember, like pretty things, I think was
I recall that one. Yeah,
Pretty Things had they had a baby tree. That was I remember that because it was like a tree with a bunch of babies coming out of it. Yeah, Pretty Things baby tree was one of the first craft breeders, but they were all, you know, the chalkboard, and it has like the state it came from, the ABV and the price, and then the volume that they're going to serve it to you at.
Yes, this sounds very much like Pony.
Yeah, and it was great. That's our local place. After that, I was like, I'm a snob now.
So it was one of those beers you had for the first time, and you're like, how is this and Miller High Life the same beverage?
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, I still drink Miller High Life. Like I became less exclusive to think. Well, I was never really exclusive. I could never really afford to be until I could. And at that point I thought it was gauche. So I still drink like a lot of like, you know, like what do they call it? Macro beers.
Macro beers.
Yeah. I, you know, like I'm monitoring my macros, trying to make sure I have enough, you know, proteins and carbs and
you and Huck might
MGDs.
get into a fight if you're drinking all those.
Look, I brought more macros to the show than anyone else. So
hey, I like them. I think it's something like bad coffee. It's like it's a real comfort food.
Yeah.
You know, like you have bad coffee and it's just like, oh, this reminds me of like every time I've been like volunteering at like, you know, like I don't know, like anything that like a big work party or something, like cleaning up after some like disaster or something.
The fact that it reminds you of volunteering like warms my heart. It just reminds me of like buying cart coffee off the streets of New York and forgetting to ask for light and sweet, which also is a warm, cuddly memory of my initial entry into New York. So I do feel you.
Yeah,
nice. I remember you were talking about your dad being the macro guy. By the way, Red Dog still exists. It's not widely distributed, but it still does. Nice. It's made. But I remember one Christmas Eve that he came bounding in with a case of Narragansett, and that was like when Narragansett was making its comeback.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he was like, "Look what I found!" Like it was this discovery from 1975. Like, oh my God, look at this case of Gansett. Now, of course, Gansett's like pretty pretty widely distributed.
They sponsored my brother as a pro skater, and he made two. If I can, let me see. Yeah, I got one of them right here.
He's another one we should have on the show.
So that's the Narragansett
there it is,
Burger Tasty board right there.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
Sorry if the audio is a little off.
No, it's okay.
That'll be worth it for the photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. What I didn't certainly mean to say what I was saying is that sort of, macro certainly has its place. Lager has its place. But it's just funny, like if I were to take a Bud Light and compare it to this, I would say, how is that the same beverage?
Yeah.
Now, if you had a Guinness next to it, I could say, well, I like this a lot better than Guinness. It's much more complex than Guinness. But I could see how you would say that it's like beer is just such a vast category. All of these things, all of these completely different things. This is all beer. I mean, with wine, it's just like, well, there's red and there's white and there's other thing that's a little reddish that's a little kind of like white, but really that's what there is.
Yeah.
But with beer, it's just all over the fucking place.
So how did we get from being becoming the beer snob to building the basement brewery?
Yeah, from the place where you're first discovering it. Yeah, what's the connective tissue there?
So I'm a DIY or die kind of guy. I got way too much hobbies than time. I have too much passion to be able to do a bunch of stuff I'm super, super motivated and interested to do, than the ability to actually do it. And beer brewing was something that always appealed to me. And I always sort of put it off. So after, I did like aquaponics really intensely for a while. Like that was like pretty much all I did. I did flying FPV drones really intensely. I had an electronic business that I did like synthesizer kits online. I got really into just regular gardening in general, started riding motorcycles, etc. So like I knew that I was going to brew, but I knew that it would have to be something that I dedicated a lot of time to. And so it was on the list. And a bunch of my friends would brew and I'd like help them out in their kitchens and stuff. But it always just seemed like such a problem to not have the right gear. And like I come from an industrial like manufacturing background. I've been working at this company, Ecovative, chronologically for 12 years, beginning date to where I'm now back there. But there was 4 years that I wasn't there, basically the Trump years. There was like an investor a pullout, and like the EPA was there. That's a whole nother story. But ultimately, like I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm got to fix this basement. The light at the end of the tunnel is doing something cool in the basement. I'm going to brew some beer, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be, because I knew I was going to have to invest in stuff, right? Like at all. And I was like, well, I'm going to like buy once, cry once, and like get really good gear. So I got everything with like tricolor fittings, which I was already familiar with from my process engineering background. And I like did a electronic kit at like Electric Brewing Supply. I think that's the name of the website, but they did basically like a, double panel, like I can run two heating elements at the same time in the HLT and the brew kettle type system. And I built the electrical box from like parts. And then with kettles, just sort of arranged them with, the stainless table I made, and then got 2 unitank fermenters and basically learned how to brew just through YouTube.
So how many different styles have you brewed so far?
6 so far. So
do tell.
Yeah.
What's your favorite of the 6 you've done? What do you think? Were you happy, like, as far as both with how it tasted and like was it exactly what you wanted it to be?
Those are different categories, I guess. I guess the one I think I nailed the most was probably the Doppelbock. I think I really hit the nail on the head with that one. I brewed that and a session ale with my brother Joe, and that was a lot of fun. Just in general, like he helped me take the process down from about 16 hours to 12 hours to do a double batch of 15 gallons each. And the session ale I like. Probably I'm most surprised by. It was my own recipe, and I based it around some advice I got on a forum. And so instead of doing like a 2-row base with like a couple specialty malts, I did a lot of Munich and a lot of like Maris Otter in there as like the base malts, and then did Cascade and Magnum for the hops, and didn't dry hop it. But no, actually that's not true. I did dry hop it, but with hops that I think were a little stale because they were ones that I grew myself, and it didn't properly vacuum seal. So the hop, like the dry hopping, is like subtle on that one. And it's a very like malty flavored session ale, and it's the lowest ABV I've brewed so far. But I think I'm going to keep going lower.
Okay.
I sort of like a very light beer that I don't feel the need to like drink a seltzer immediately afterward. You know, like
it's like as long as it has good flavor, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and also it has a sudsy quality to it that like heavier beers just don't. Like it goes down really easy, you know, and it's like but I'm still like learning about carbonation levels and stuff. And that's a whole nother process.
I was talking to Joe about it last week, your brother, and I said, well, when's he going to start selling? When's it going to be in bars and stuff? And he said, that's not the idea.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's not the idea I'm going into it with. I mean, who knows, you know, maybe it'll turn my passion for brewing into a business someday. But like the minimum size system you need to be able to like pay yourself a living wage is like 300-ish gallons. And because it ends up taking about the same amount of time as you would, because of all the steps, you know, there's a lot of cleaning, there's a lot of thermodynamics and stuff, and you basically scale your power system for the batch size you're doing. So when you're doing something at like 300 something gallons, like you're using a lot of heat. You're using usually like, you know, natural gas or something, or if you're doing it all electric, you have like a very different power setup than most houses. Because you know, just water holds so much like heat. It takes a lot of fucking energy to.
So you need even that much even to be like a nano brewery.
Yeah. Like even brewing like at the 15-gallon bottling size. So I'm brewing probably like 20 gallons of like liquid initially, or at least when it's boiling, it's like that high. You know, it takes like hours for the water to get up to temperature, like from room temperature, and so it's all about like the process flow of like brewing is all about trying to keep your parallel paths going. It's sort of like playing like a real-time strategy game. Like I don't know if you guys ever played like StarCraft or like you know, Command and Conquer or something. You have to just get everything lined up with no delays in any of the processes, and then you have a nice tight day. Yeah, so you just have to like arc toward perfection of process control. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so the whole reason I'm brewing is like I want cheap beer, and I want to eventually like not work all the time. Like I'd like to be able to take a year off every couple of years and just sort of like live and like, you know, maybe do some organizing or activism or some work that I know doesn't pay. And I still want to drink well when I'm doing that. And so I want to like bring the overall cost in terms of like cost to me down. So I went ahead and installed solar panels on the roof, made my brewing electric, and now I'm got, you know, a working relationship with a wholesale buyer of grains, so I can get my grains real cheap. And it really is just a thing about the labor, because if I was to pay myself even like a couple bucks an hour or whatever, the cost would very quickly inflate beyond what I'm paying, you know, for a craft beer, getting a 6-pack at a time, you know.
Interesting. You could contract brew to other homebrewers.
Yeah, I mean, potentially
like rent the space.
I was going to say, that sounds like many people would want to hop in on that.
So there's actually a legislation for that. Like, you can get, it's called, I forget what it's called, but there's special like carve out in the tax code and like brewing licensure that you can basically be a brew on demand like system. But it's really weird. They make it so that you can't actually like brew with them. You can only answer questions, and you have to like pass all these like regulatory things where it's got to like, you know, be an OSHA safe workplace, and like I've got like a steep like step down. I don't know if I could get grandfathered in because of the style of the building I'm in right now, but I'm in a basement.
I wonder I wonder what the laws are like. That's from state to state, because I know there are some like full on breweries that do that. I know, like when I was in Ohio, I went to a couple of breweries there that were like would allow you to brew like home brew on premises.
And do they like, are they able to help you? Because like that was the thing that surprised me. It was like you cannot help the people. Like you just have to like show them like how to turn on various things and stuff. But then it's just like you're not brewing. You're not brewing as a service.
I'm looking for a gracious segue here, but I think Huck's getting a little impatient.
I'm just testing the light.
This is I think this is as gracious as a segue as we need.
I do have a new beer. I managed to go to a great brewery in Rhode Island on my way to the Cape. This is called Tilted Barn Brewing. If you've heard of them, they are pretty well known for their.
And if you can't hear Huck that well right now, it's because I think he's holding his beer up to the mic.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying so hard. Pasture, this is called. This is a farmhouse ale.
Oh, lovely.
From Tilted Barn Brewing out of Exeter, Rhode Island. And like I said, they're more known for their hazy IPAs. And Cider Girl picked out this really wonderful glass. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh, very beautiful.
Is that a Moltres?
It's is that what we call it? It's like
a Pokemon. I think it's a Pokemon.
Oh, it's a Pokemon. Well, this
Maybe
is called
not.
Milo's
Or
Phoenix, which is another.
Oh, it's a
beer
Phoenix. Yeah, there we go.
There's the Tilted Barn.
I'm just glad that our first Rhode Island beer is not a Narragansett. I'm glad you're able to find something unique.
That. This is such a nice
glass.
Did you think that we'd have to stoop to that level, Captain?
It's all I've been able to find myself around here. But yeah, let's. Well,
Rhode Island's got a pretty happening scene. So this is. I've had one of these already. It's very effervescent, as you can already see in the glass.
Yeah, you can see there's a head growing very quickly.
But it's kind of almost got a champagne-like quality to it. It's very sparkling and super effervescent. Nice farmhouse ale,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I got a lemony nose on it.
So what makes it a farmhouse? Is it a specific type of yeast or?
Yeah, they're usually a farmhouse means it's made with like a rustic ale, like it's made with different. It's supposed to be made with ingredients that you find on the farm. That's the original definition of it. So they can be wide ranging, also known as saisons.
Yep.
And they're usually, at least in Belgium anyway, they're bottle conditioned. So
nice.
That's always that extra step in there. So it gives them a little bit more of that funkiness or sweetness. Let's see how this one is. This one's really delicious. It's very effervescent, just super refreshing. And
yeah, you can see that.
This is the kind of one that's good to keep in the fridge until the last minute. It's just nice. It's so cold. You can see that.
Nice and crisp.
There. It's very crisp. Yeah, it's almost lagery in that way. It's super light, even though it's about 5.4%. But yeah, really, really good beer. Yeah, and really nice brewery. Beautiful place. And I'm loving this can art. I got a hat too. Where's that hat?
Well, and it does seem that the captain may also.
I do. I have a second pour, and this is one that I've tried to get on the show before, but something always winds up bumping it. I've talked about it, but it's one of my favorite beers of all time, and I just feel like I had to put it into our archive somewhere. This is the North Coast Old Rasputin.
There it is.
Nothing hip or trendy or new about it. It's just one of my favorite beers, and I want to have it here on the show.
Just a classic.
Here we go.
Nice.
It's a Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's funny.
That's exactly what you'd expect.
Lover of the Russian Queen.
We talked about this one
we know our song
a while back because Huck had a North Coast beer a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they
but this is, in fact, one of our guests mentioned he thought that I kind of looked like this picture of Rasputin here. So
hell yeah!
Yeah, just
do the hand.
Do this.
Nice.
There you go. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's a good look.
Hell yeah!
The other person I look like with this beard is the guy on the Burt's Bees thing.
Oh,
yes. I didn't realize it until I was wearing a floppy hat one day, and I realized I looked like the Burt's Bees guy.
The Burt's Bees.
You could also do a good Vermin Supreme, who coincidentally we interviewed on our podcast.
Vermin Supreme.
Yeah, so he almost won the Libertarian political primary for president.
Right.
He came second place, I believe.
Is he based out of Texas? Is that right?
Yeah, Joe Jorgensen. Like,
yep.
Who's heard of her? But no, he's out of I think New Hampshire maybe.
Oh,
actually.
okay. Somebody else.
But yeah, he's this old hippie. He's like a left anarchist, so like libertarian socialist type. But yeah, he has an epic beard, as you do as well. And if you wore a rubber boot on your head, upside down, then you'd be a dead ringer. And you also have to wear like a leopard print or suit with like 15 American flag ties.
Okay, that's
and that's the complete costume, and then you're ready to rock.
That might be more than I'm. Yeah, but like, you
know. It's commitment to the cause, Captain.
Yeah, this is. There's the Burt's Bees.
You definitely.
Oh,
do.
wow.
You guys have seen the thing. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you look very much like Burt.
Yeah, it's funny. His is more of like one of those old like railroad engineer caps. But I was wearing the floppy hat. I was taking a picture of myself actually having an old Rasputin. I thought I see the Burt's Bees guy too. Burt Shavitz is his name. To make sure we give him credit. The late Burt Shavitz.
If I can double back on before this becomes a huck up next week, it's not a huck up, but explanation. We were talking about Pretty Things. You mentioned that brewery, and until you said it, I'd forgotten they existed because we used to drink Pretty Things over at Pony Bar in the early days.
Definitely, yeah.
And Pretty Things, they called it the Pretty Things Project.
Oh,
and they called it a project for a reason, and they said all projects end, and so they stopped brewing in 2015.
Okay,
they were saying, okay, the project is over.
Wow,
that's cool. I like that.
It is very cool. Like they weren't like trying to. They didn't have some long-term business plan. They were like, this is a project we're working on. It was pretty successful out of the Boston area. And then they said, okay, we're not doing that anymore.
Hell yeah.
Very,
I think that
very Chris Scully.
Yeah. It's a great way to frame it, cause like people complain about how communes always fail. And I'm always just like, if they worked at all for any period of time, then they succeeded. Mm-hmm. And if they ended, like, do we judge all relationships that way? Like,
well, yeah, no, but actually, a lot of people do.
A lot of people
do. A lot of people do. That's the thing. They refer to as something as a failed marriage. But I think but I've heard Dan Savage refer to it in a similar way. Like every relationship succeeds until it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the marriage was a good marriage, and then it wasn't, and that's why it ended.
Well, they say nothing lasts forever, but what makes love the exception?
Right. It's not. I mean, the thing is,
thank you, Andre.
All relationships end in some way or another. Some people if it's the best possible you can hope is it lasts until one of the people dies.
Yeah, I guess, and that's pretty morbid.
Because that's still the relationship ending. But there are plenty of relationships that just they were good. And then they weren't. So then they weren't anymore.
But at least we didn't grow apart. We just died on one another.
We did not grow apart from Pretty Things. That's
that's awesome.
We remember them pleasantly, not like, oh, that bitch left us. Yeah. We don't think about Pretty Things in those terms.
They were best known for a beer called Jack d'Or.
Yep, Jack d'Or. Yep, I remember them. Yep, with the saison, the egg.
Sale. Yeah, can you explain a farmhouse ale better than I can, Beer Wonder? Because I always have trouble with it.
I always think
reading about it all the time. Bottle conditioned.
Bottle conditions. I always think about it as being something that uses a more of a wild yeast, sometimes made out of cool ship.
Or they do open air fermentation. Yeah,
open air fermentation. Yeah. I think it goes back, if I'm not mistaken, to like ancient European traditions, and it was usually like the Christmas beer or late summer stuff, and they were just kind of using whatever grain they had left over.
Right.
If we're dealing with it in an historic way, but today I always think of it as funky and probably something that just used an ale or a yeast that just kind of showed up somewhere.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was speaking with a historian. I believe that's the title for this type of person, but somebody who studies history and specifically sanitation in the medieval period.
Okay.
And they were talking about how in cities, I think like I want to say Brussels and like Munich, a couple other places where like rivers ran through them. I don't know if either of those cities have rivers, but the ones that did, people would like shit into the river, and they'd also get their water from the river, and they'd wash in the river, and that like all of the fecal coliforms and everything that existed in this water, which was the driving force of industry when they eventually had that, and before that, just like the source and disposal of like all source and wastewater, they would still brew with that water, and that water.
That's not something you want to be a closed loop.
Yeah, not typically. No, it's not a good
usually.
idea. But back when they did do this, one of the things was the water from the river, just you knew you couldn't drink because it would get you super sick. But people brewed with it. And apparently the yeast and the boiling process like sanitized the water to such an extent that like they could feed it to kids if it was a light enough beer. So they do like a big beer, like a Doppelbock or something, and they'd do that in a big volume and put that in casks. And then instead of doing a sparge process for that beer, they'd sparge that and make like a 2% or like a 2.5% or whatever was like the point where you weren't like giving kids a lot of brain damage, but you were also not giving them fecal coliforms in their water. and like that was just how balance. Yeah, you got to thread that needle.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Thread that needle.
But yeah, I heard from a historian that's studying European sanitation history.
I was just reading about that today. That's where we get that's Saint Arnold is credited with a lot of. He's like a patron saint of beer. That he's credited with doing that, like saving people's lives through beer. And Saint Gabrinus as well is another one that we talk about. These Belgian innovators.
Also a delightful bottle shop and bar in Brooklyn, which is still going strong.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a very nice place. They didn't give me a job there, but whatever.
Well, that was their loss.
Yes.
Sure as hell was.
So now I know we I feel like we might have segued quickly into the pores. Did we leave anything out with your origin story, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
any other important chapters you think we need to revisit?
I think you guys got to like mint me a name, right? Or do I come up with my own?
Well, I guess.
I mean, I feel like we've all been taking notes on that one. I do want to touch on it. Well, Huck, I rely on you for these things.
No, you guys have taken the mantle now. So
I know.
But that's too much responsibility for me.
Well, while we're mulling, I did want to just touch on like our week in beer because we did have a fun adventure. And Chris, the next time you are in the County of Kings, close to my undisclosed location, you'll need to join us at the new
I would love to.
Evil Twin location. Yeah,
I will promise the next time I come into the city limits, I will give you both a call.
Great. I think it's like a requirement at this point. So
You're a beer venger. We have to anytime beer vengers enter this realm of the beer venger sphere.
Is New York City?
Did Charles know? I mean, did
COVID?
the Beer Barian know he would be so influential? Because we have the Beer Venger sphere is like it's a go-to now for us, isn't it?
Well, he's a librarian. He knows all the words.
Are we done with COVID? Well, that's a good question. We went to the Evil Twin last night, and we all walked in with wearing masks. We have to wear them on the subway still. But Cuomo made some big announcement today. You probably know more about that. Or yesterday that he's like, it's over.
Today was he removed all state COVID.
Forget about it. It's over.
Stuff.
But unlike Florida, he's not
about all the sexual harassment stuff I did too. That's over too.
He's still allowing businesses to go whatever kind of protocols that they need.
That's true.
But you guys showed up with your masks. I didn't. I got out of the subway, and maybe it's because I'm on the subway for an hour before I get there, and I'm just more attuned to it. As soon as I walk out, I can take it off.
Oh, me too.
So I got up, I took it off, and it's like a 0.3 of a mile walk to get there, and I hovered outside the entrance, like, what do the signs say? What are we allowed to do? Okay, this sign says vaccinated people don't need masks. And I look inside, and no one is wearing. It was like, I guess I can just walk in without a mask. No one's gonna ask for my credentials, and it was great.
Yeah, and it's so different from even just like 2 weeks ago.
That's very true. Yeah.
What's it like?
We're going
through
the
Troy?
same thing.
Are we? Is it
sudden rebirth? Yeah, it's crazy. And it makes me feel really self-conscious as so I also do a podcast, right? And it also has a semi-global reach. Like most people who listen to it are like people in Troy,
like the Beer
right?
Vengers.
Yeah, like the Beer Vengers.
We're global.
You're global. You got people listening from all over the world.
Sure.
And
this month, just Italy and UK and just a couple of people, but they're there.
That's the
Yeah,
globe.
And parts unknown. I forgot to say parts unknown because
that's really the globe. That could be the aliens in outer space.
Yeah,
as far as we
or
know.
it could be Utah. We don't know.
Isn't it like fucked up that like the rest of the world doesn't have vaccine access, and like we are trying to like convince the chuds in our lives to like take the vaccine? Like it's so weird.
It's
like
free.
You have a lot of chuds in your life
so easily.
Chris.
It's like I mean, yeah, of course. But like all right, so I'm an anarchist, right? Like I don't trust the state. I don't trust any organized power that isn't legitimate, and like in hierarchy in general. And so I have understandings and sympathies with people who don't trust like a government mandated vaccine in various ways. But the other thing about it that you have to have on the other side of the hand that I just like don't get why people don't is that this virus is very real and it killed 600,000 of us. Yes. And like you're going to end up vaccinated either way. You're either going to be vaccinated by getting this virus that might very well kill you, or you're going to get this vaccine by a 2-dose shot, likely within the US from CVS, that more than half the country's gotten already, in terms of adult population. And like the most common thing is like you get some muscle soreness or like a headache for like a day. Yeah. And that comparing those two realities, it's like, obviously do the thing that is in your best interest. But I also, just for the real cranks that might be listening, to sympathize with the fact that it is very odd that we're going through a global microchip shortage while we are going through a vaccine rollout.
I knew something was
just saying. Just saying.
I knew it.
But yeah, it's so weird. So anyway, my sympathies go to
here.
The
they
rest
don't
of the
make
world.
them quite that small yet.
I was wondering why that spoon. I had my cereal spoon the other day. I leaned it against my head and it wouldn't come off. I was like, I knew it.
Oh yeah. Oh, did
just
you see the one on John
of
Oliver where she like kept trying to make it stick and it kept falling off? Like because why is this sticking? It stick. Yeah. No, I think
can anyone explain this? But yeah, my feelings go out to the rest of the world, like especially India, especially like the places that are getting really ravaged by this right now. And like, even in the places that had it already embedded in their culture of like mask hygiene as a public, like, service. Like I went to Japan for about 20 days. Yeah. And everybody was wearing masks like all the time, like not every single person, but like half.
It was common.
Like half of the people were wearing masks. And this is pre-COVID. This is like before they had anything other than like their own history of respiratory illness, right? But like people as a social ethic, whenever they were sick, would wear masks. And if the government said everybody has to wear masks, it'd be like, of course. And it would be like 100% people using it. And even there, it's like breaking out to the point where people are protesting the Olympics right now. They're like, we shouldn't have Olympics right now. So anyway, I just feel really bad for the rest of the world because I'm out here partying. I'm doing body shots. I'm like, just living my best life. And
that's what I was really waiting to do. I mean, it's a year and a half without body shots.
But like everybody's maskless. Like I played a punk show last Saturday for a crowd of like 70 or 80 people. And that was overwhelming because I'm not that socialized yet. And it was just really intense. But at the same time, it's beautiful and everyone's loving it. And I'm just like, I just want this to be the case for everybody around the world, like yesterday. Absolutely. And like, it's so messed up that we have intellectual property rights and stuff that keep us from being able to like globally distribute something.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially because it's going to come back to bite us. Anyway, sorry.
I've gotten a little too used to staying inside.
Yeah,
that's where my reentry thing is being weird right now because like I want to go do stuff, but I also momentum. Unless I have something specific to do, I can still stay inside for days at a time.
Yeah, well, I was like that before the pandemic.
Yeah,
so.
me too. But like now, I
have
want
everything I need in this house.
I part of the way I sort of mentally rationalized it because I haven't worked in over a year. Aside from this is
hard work too.
Hey, this is anything that occupies.
The captain does all the producing, so yeah.
Anything that occupies your time is an occupation.
It's true.
It's even if you're not getting paid for it, this is
true.
something that I'm working at. But I had myself thinking of it as like, okay, I'm in temporary retirement. That's
a good way of doing it.
Oh, like temporary retirement, and I'm having a few mental blocks as how to transition out of it. I'll get there.
Hell yeah! What were you doing before COVID? What, like,
I worked at the Statue of Liberty.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I did a 1-person show out there, and it was interactive theater. And I think interactive theater is the last theater that will come back.
Yeah,
just because it's especially as it's period based, so masks would be like the first like big like having a big anachronism on your face makes it very hard to pretend like you're from 1886.
That's true. Unless, well, when was the Spanish flu?
Well, first of all, we're not allowed to call it. We're not supposed to call it that anymore because apparently.
Oh yeah, sorry. What were we supposed to call it? What's the real name?
I think we just called the 1918 flu.
1918 flu.
And
okay,
I'm not shaming you there.
I know when that happened.
I'm not virtue signaling. I'm just trying to help all of us get to the right words.
Hey, and I hear you.
How about can we come back around now to
the naming?
The naming, yeah.
Yes. The naming, very important. Very important.
I have some huck-ups. Basically, you were right about Angry Orchard. They were a creation of the Boston Beer Company.
Okay.
Yes.
I should have trusted you on that, Captain.
BBC.
But I didn't really know what the fuck I was talking about. I just assumed.
I only have one other one. Oh, when I said Greenpoint Brewing had a great bottle selection, I didn't make it clear that they have a can and bottle selection from all kinds of different breweries, mainly New York, but they have all the different New York breweries for sale in their brewery as far as cans. It's not just Greenpoint cans. All right, there you go. That's it. All right, so now the naming.
We're done hucked.
No, I know that you are the Moondog.
Yep, I am the Moondog.
So that's a possibility there.
I like that one.
That's fun to work with.
What I was thinking the Blue Moondog fish head.
I'm down with that.
Are you jumping into all the corporate ones here? You trying to shame this new beer avenger?
The anti-Blue Moondog fish head.
Ooh.
The anti-Blue Moondog fish head. Yeah, I like it. I like being anti. That's right. I'm mostly anti.
The anti-Blue Moon Dogfish Head Tifa.
Tifa. Okay,
Tifa.
so the Tifa. So yes, of course.
We just do pha. So
anti.
So anti-Blue Moon Dogfish Head pha.
Why? I love it.
Why are we throwing Dogfish Head under the bus? That's what I'm wondering.
Because they're owned by the Boston Beer Company now.
But the Boston Beer Company is still a micro.
ABMDF
compared to the macro, yeah.
No, they're not. They're definitely not micro.
I'm not trying to live my micro life. I'm trying to live my macro life. I'm trying to be.
How about macro dog?
You're just trying to start a fight with Huck, aren't you? That's what you're going for here.
Here's because I was doing some research on this last weekend, and I know this is getting a little away from the naming thing, but I like Sam Adams, Boston Beer Company is like $1 billion industry, a single $1 billion industry.
Yes,
right.
Dogfish Head is about 1/10 of that, even though they paid more than that to acquire them, and they're probably growing.
Wow.
But when you compare that to the macros, they're in the tens of billions.
Yeah.
Like I think I think on that
wouldn't
spectrum,
call them micro.
I wouldn't call. Yeah, you're right.
I
think it's
I'm like a Pico.
But I do think
Pico,
that if you
Pico Chew,
I feel if you're a smaller brewery that is owned by or is in business with Boston, it's almost like a macro or micro umbrella. Maybe the Sam Adams brand itself isn't micro, but if you are owned by them, it's like until we hear something to the contrary, I really want to believe that a micro that merges with or is acquired by Boston Beer Company is a little more pure than someone who is acquired by InBev.
Okay, fair. So how about this? This brew.
Wow,
I really like Dogfish Head.
You capitulated really fast there, Huck.
How about,
I'm just saying, it's weird that $1 billion industry is still a fraction of the big boys. That's all I'm saying.
You're absolutely right. How about this brewery kills fascists?
Oh, I love that.
Ooh, TBKF. TBKF.
Yeah. TBKF. There we go.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And there's two ways for fascists to die, and this way it's non-actionable and parody satire, because fascists can just stop being fascists. So if you have an eliminate all fascists morale patch on your empty plate carrier at a protest, that doesn't mean you're looking to murder every fascist. It might mean that you're looking to have a heart-to-heart conversation and convince them of the error of their way.
Well, there you go. I do want to say Cider Girl
Girl's got one.
Has a suggestion.
Yeah.
B is for brewer. Opposite V for vendetta.
Oh, okay. That's a thinker.
I like that.
That's a thinker.
Got a little bit of a Guy Fawkes kind of thing.
Exactly. I feel that. I feel that action.
That's good, Guy. Captain, Beer Wonder.
Yeah,
you jump in.
I'm just sort of riffing. I was at one point I was briefly saying, because you were going with this machine kills fascists,
right.
I was going with Beery Guthrie, since wasn't it?
Ooh.
Yeah, that wasn't Woody
Guthrie
yes.
the one who had the
yes.
guitar that said
guitar
he
kills
was.
fascists.
Yes, he did.
This machine kills fascists.
Machine.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Machine. Yes.
I'm digging. I mean, you'd have this brewer kills fascists, but I think you'd have to go by TBKF.
TBKF is great.
Oh,
I like
okay.
it. It's
I feel
easy
like
to remember.
TBKF, and then everyone has, and if you're in the know, you understand what it stands for.
And then what's cool about having
fascists,
an acronym like
TBK.
that is that you can come up with many stories for different audiences.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Tom Brady.
I like that one. Yeah.
TBKF.
So my brother Pat, the artist that did the Narragansett deal with the skateboard, he had a clubhouse that used to be a junk shop, and before that it was a flower shop at 420 Pleasant Street. Pretty dope address in Worcester, Mass. And it was called FYC. And and it stood for Fuck Yeah Center. But I'm trying to remember what it was like, for your consideration. He came up with like so many other names whenever.
Well, for your consideration is the first thing I think, because that's what they actually put on the things where they're trying to get you to vote for stuff.
Right, for the
they say
true,
FYC. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But the Fuck Yeah Center, which was this cool place, like the idea behind it, according to him, was that he'd keep the door open, and if people came in with like a project that inspired him to like help out with, he'd be like, "Fuck yeah!" And he's just like, "We need a center for that. We need to be able to like."
We need to say Senator Fuck Yeah.
Short-lived. Yeah. But, it was a short-lived project.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 2 years.
I remember going in there. Yeah, it was a cool spot. I actually wiped out on a
skate
skateboard in there.
I
was like, no more skateboarding for the huckster. That was the last time I got
so hard.
The huckster.
Have any of you guys, other than Mike, skated in the past?
Not really.
No.
Just like as a little kid, teenager, preteen.
Yeah, it's one of those like passions that are exclusively for badasses.
Yes.
Like you have to be so fucking tough to like just eat it over and over and over and over and get up on your wheelie board and just do it again. Like that is tougher than I am, gotta say.
Cider Girl's got another one, the Disruptor.
Ooh.
The Disruptor. That's
yeah. I like that.
What the beer is, but what do we do with beer? We
that was why I started going with Beery Guthrie or Hoppy Guthrie or
Hoppy Guthrie.
But
I do like the acronym
TBKF.
Well,
and of course, if we do go with that, at some point or another, we've got to get him an OFYMD.
Oh fuck yeah, my dude!
This was a beer from Evil Twin. They're very coy about what it stands for, and I saw a few suggestions, but the one that I saw most significantly was "Oh fuck yeah, my dude."
Oh fuck yeah, my dude.
Oh fuck yeah, my dude.
Much like fuck yeah, Worcester.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah, Center. Sorry.
So can I weigh in on all these options?
Yes. Well, you will be the deciding vote.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to go with TBKF, and y'all can just call me KF for short, and that's the most important part. So.
Very good.
That's the fascists.
Well,
TBKF.
Yes, exactly.
TBKF.
KF. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
It really has, yeah.
Been educational.
Sorry for that weird little hiccup. It's going to be a fun.
It's been enlightening.
Fun treat for me to figure out how to glue that shit together.
You'll figure it out. You're a pro.
I will. And I probably shouldn't have said it because whoever's listening to this doesn't know what happened.
They have no.
So hey, there's a rabbit hole for you.
But if they'd like to find out what happened, how could they get in touch with us, Captain?
Well, they could just email us at thebeervengers@gmail.com. That's the most direct way. I mean, you can. What do they call it? The DM on the S.
You could slide into our DMs.
Sliding into the DMs.
Yeah, I think at one point I said slip into the DMs, and you corrected me. That was wrong.
No, that was
that's
you don't want to
very-
slip. You want to slide into the DMs.
Yes, that's
on the Instagram.
You slip
on the
into
Facebook,
something more comfortable.
on the Twitter. All
That's
three of
after the
which,
DM.
yes, after the whatever you do, all three of those things I just mentioned: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. At the Beer Vengers, the at symbol, not the word at. And you can find all of our pour picks and all of our streaming archive, as well as the blog entries from 7 years ago at thebeervengers.com. That's your.
If you really want to delve into the Beer Vengers.
If you want to. Speaking of rabbit holes, yeah, that's a thing. But yeah, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. But you put the Beer Vengers into. Well, you're listening. You know how to find us. Why am I saying any more of this?
Anyway, how can we
we're
listen
very glad.
to Ironweeds, which is
Same thing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Listen to Ironweeds, also a part of the Podbean network, right?
Yeah, Podbean is where we publish. You can find
That's
it
where we do
anywhere,
it too.
You know, Spotify, all the good places you find your fine podcasts, such as Beer Vengers.
If you want to get out there in KF, check out the KF on Ironweeds. Very cool show.
Yeah, I
You're
should also
celebrating
say
your 100th show this week, right?
Yeah, we just published it actually today.
Oh, wonderful.
So, so we recorded it on Sunday, and then we actually have a Patreon as well, where we talked about, and maybe after we finish recording, I want to get you guys' input on this. The Bo Burnham special Inside.
I just brought that up
the
last
captain
night.
watched it.
We can talk about. Yes, we should talk about it. I recommend it. It maybe
It touched
for
me
some
in a way that I was not expected
me too,
to be touched.
but I also
retrospectively it was consensual. So
I immediately was hesitant to recommend it because I think it might be too much for some people.
Some people in the room with me right now.
Well, no, I'm just saying. It's just like if you don't want to. If you're like, I don't want to think about that right now.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. Like, I don't want to be reminded of like, oh, wow, this is exactly what I was going through last year. If you don't want to have that feeling, don't watch it right now. Or if you're in a mood where you don't want to do that. That was all I was saying. It is really, really good. But it's also, it's an investment. It's an emotional investment.
So if you want to hear our after podcast, you can listen to that in your imagination.
Yes. Or maybe that's
don't have a Patreon,
maybe that's what we're talking about once we hit.
You guys got to get on the Patreon.
Yes, we welcome any.
Hey, bro, we're not in it for the money, okay?
No,
we're in it for the.
Got to monetize this content.
We're not in it for it, but if that happens, that's still okay.
This is for the people.
So mixed message here.
All right, Jamie Dimon.
You know what? You know what? Huck, I think you may need to just play us out at this point.
But something has to happen before we do.
There's more.
All I was saying is like, hey, TKB2, or what did we say? TBKF, or just KF, or whatever you want that to stand for. It's been wonderful having you on the show. We really appreciate your time.
It's really been wonderful being on this podcast. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
And come back anytime.
Oh, good point. I'm sorry.
That's true.
Come on.
I know. We're not being very polite.
I mean it sincerely. I didn't say it because I thought I stopped you because I needed to say it. If this was completely organic and not a staple that we do with every single guest, whoever comes on the show, whether we need it or not. But I meant it this time. And I have every other time. Boy, yeah.
You know what?
Beer Wonder's right. Play us out, Huck.
Just play us out.
Well, we're the beer Vengers, beer Vengers, beer Vengers. We're the Beer Vengers.